Ministry is hard.
It is hard.
Yes.
It is hard. As we enter into Easter season and from Easter into Mother's Day, from Mother's Day into summer, and all of the highs and the lows that come with ministry, as former retired now pastors, you've dealt with all of the things that come with the highs and lows of the Easter season, Mother's Day, the summer slumps, and all of the things. I don't know that I just want to stay there, but I want to start there, okay? Because we'll have a lot of people that will watch this that are our people, that love hearing the battles that we are in inside of ministry. But I think, too, the pastors that are watching this right now, let's really quickly just have some conversation about the highs and lows of Sunday, Easter Sunday, into Mother's Day, into the summer slump. I'll start and then give you guys some time to just ponder some advice that you would give pastors. Okay. One of the things that I always say to young guys, and one of the things that God had to teach me early on, was we don't live and die by Sunday. It was kind of a saying that I'd say, hey, we don't live and die by Sunday, which means when it's a really great Sunday, it's awesome, we celebrate it, but we don't live there. And then when it's a really bad Sunday, it's okay, it tanked, no worries. We straighten it out, we get it better, but we don't die because it was a bad Sunday. We don't live and die by Sunday. And so that helped us to kind of have more of a focus out there rather than a focus for the here and the now and what happened this week. Because, a lot of pastors, they have a bad Sunday and they're ready to quit, or they have a really good Sunday and they're ready to move churches and go find something bigger because this place ain't big enough to hold us all.
Yes.
So give us some wisdom. Pastor Tom pastored for how many years?
40 total, but 33 at one church.
40 years, lots of wisdom. You've seen the highs and lows, Easter, Mother's Day, summer slump. Give us some wisdom.
Charles Spurgeon wrote in one of his books, he said that more pastors quit on Monday than any other day of the week.
No doubt.
And he called it the Monday morning fainting fits. And
Interesting.
I've had sermons that I thought, kind of just dribble down my chin that nobody was listening, and have somebody come up and say, wow, that really touched me.
Changed my life.
Yep.
And then I've had other sermons that I thought, man, that was great. Nobody say a word. And Monday,
they should write books on this sermon. It's so good.
And then Monday you feel like jumping off a cliff. We never did any serious business on Monday. We would just do a staff meeting and then go to lunch, because I just wasn't, to do heavy-duty counseling and stuff like that. I always tried to leave Monday open to recover.
So no heavy-duty business on Monday. Great wisdom.
I didn't do heavy-duty business. I did team building.
Great wisdom.
Basic.
Bradley Q, pastored for how many years?
20 as a planning lead pastor, and probably been in ministry like 47 years.
47 years.
Like you're a lot older than I am.
I am. I'm older than Pastor Tom, and I just look better.
Bradley Q, give us some wisdom for the people watching.
Well, what we would do, we lived in a tough area. The Northeast is a tough area to do ministry, and we would make, again, if you look at the highs and lows, and that's great wisdom that we don't live and die by on Sunday, just as a cliche saying, because if you do that, it'll make you crazy. And I started to read some stats, because we were all about statistics, because I wanted to have as many people led to the kingdom of God as I possibly could. And I read a stat several years ago that was astounding to me, but a regular attender attends church 1.7 times per month.
Yep.
That's a regular attender.
Wow.
Now, when we were kids, you went Sunday morning, you went Sunday evening, you went Wednesday night, and you never missed. Right. I mean, that's just how it was. But, it's tough nowadays. It seems like there's so much going on. But one of the things we did in the Northeast, because it's tough up there, is we would make a big deal out of the big days. And we'd try to make the biggest impact we could out of Easter and Christmas and Mother's Day, because that's when people were going to come. And if you have, when we left, our church was running for 2 services, maybe a total of between 350 and 375. But on Easter weekend, with Good Friday and then Easter services, we'd have over 700 people.
Okay, question. Here we go. I've nicknamed things. Okay, so we always call it the big service hangover.
Oh yes.
Which means because they only attend church 1.7 times a month, they hit their Easter weekend. Everybody at the same time.
Yep.
So they all take the next weekend off because they've done their one weekend for the month.
It's almost like you want to have a guest speaker on Sunday.
So did you find that there was some sort of, if you'd made this big push for special days, did you find that there was some sort of big service hangover?
Our staff, everybody on our staff was all from the Northeast. So you kind of expected. We went into we always had our staff meetings on Tuesday morning, okay, and Tuesday morning we never said, okay, what did we do wrong? We'd always say, what can we do better?
Yeah, for sure.
And everybody always had suggestions, but we tried to never let the slump hit. Yeah. Which, if you have a weekend where if you saw 700 people, and then the next weekend you have 102 services. Yeah. You could let that get to you, but you just tried to stay even keel, and that is an emotional battle the enemy is really good at beating pastors up with. That's one of the things that people don't understand. Whenever and the average person that comes to in the congregation, and I don't mean this to be detrimental in any way, shape, or form. But they don't see the struggles that the pastor has, not only with preparing.
My lovely secretary has brought in you a water and you a coffee.
You're so kind.
My sweet girl.
She is very kind. So she's a bruiser.
Love you, honey.
But
I didn't want y'all's mouths to get dry. Hydration. Hey, last time we were on a podcast together, you were talking about how honestly, you brought this really cool moment for me of God, I trust you.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and
I'm still rolling that around in my spirit.
Yeah, me too.
To be honest with you, it's life changing. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
And like I say, I'm still grappling with it a little bit. I still trust him.
Yeah. So last time it was surgery that can't be done. This time, a couple months later, doctor said, "Yeah, come on in. I'll do the surgery."
I've got a stent in my heart, and I suppose everything's wonderful now.
It's crazy. So you have an appointment tomorrow with the guy who told you he couldn't do anything.
Told me he couldn't do it. But I don't feel any different towards God. It was kind of like that's what he said. Just trust him.
It's amazing.
So
Incredible.
I honestly don't. If I can address one thing about the Easter and then Mother's Day and all that kind of stuff, one of the things I don't miss about ministry, and I hate even saying that because people will take it wrong. I hate the constant pressure. No, I don't. I didn't like the constant pressure of having to outperform a regular Sunday because it was Mother's Day,
Amen.
Or because it was Easter. I was more comfortable just being Pastor Tom, recognizing those days, but I didn't ever want to feel like I had to put on a show.
For sure.
Because I'm just not good at that. I really am not. And so the pressure of it, July 4th, and, the first sermon I preached was on July 4th, and I preached about freedom. And it was at a men's recovery center. And so, at the end of it, I give this wonderful altar call, and they all stood up, and they all came forward. And I thought, I am the next Billy Graham. This is remarkable. I'm really good.
I will preach this sermon every single year at July 4th.
What I realized is they had to go by the pulpit to get to the lunchroom. And every one of them came and took a sharp right. I was just standing there.
If you get saved, you get the
So the big events, and we loved them, and I think we were good at it, but they wore me out.
Yeah, I would always say to our team, and I still do now, I don't want to offer somebody something on a big day that we wouldn't offer them every single week.
Yes.
Yep.
When we were young, there was a season where we didn't have a drummer. And so they were like, well, we got to hire one for Easter Sunday. And you're like, do we?
Yeah.
Because then the next week they're going to come back and expect this awesome drummer that we're not able to offer them. So we do our best. We do everything with excellence. We try every single week, and Easter or special days always helps to maybe set that par line of this is what excellence looks like now, because as you grow and as new people volunteer, your line of what excellence is constantly changing. And so we wanted to do things with excellence, but we also wanted to do stuff that we could replicate week in and week out.
The next Sunday, we're still us.
We're still us. This is who we are. Yeah. And I think you'll find that around here this weekend. I think this post Friday, so you'll find that around here this weekend if you come to Easter services or Good Friday service, that Good Friday's very unique.
Yes.
Communion, very somber service, but there's nothing so unique about it that people don't say that was Palmetto Pointe Church. Yes. Easter, same way. It's going to be us. We're going to have a few little unique, the teens are doing a little drama to one of the songs that are being sung, things like that. But it's nothing that we can't replicate week in and week out if we had to. And so I agree completely. There is such pressure on pastors to outdo themselves. Right. And especially even now. Okay, so y'all grew up in a time where there was no YouTube.
Correct.
So
no media.
No media, right?
Hardly at all.
My dad, we just threw this out when we were cleaning out the garage. My dad had this thing where you would put the tape here and this side, and you put the tape in this side, and you hit the button, and it would make copies of the tape.
You had to be up here
to have one of those, right?
And if you had one that did 1 to 3, you were.
And if you would wait just a few minutes after the service, we'll have a tape.
We'll have the tape for you, right?
And the labels were written with pen.
So y'all grew up in a time without the constant comparison.
Yes.
Guys my age and younger are growing up where I'll tell you a story. This series that I'm doing called Embrace the Brokenness, it was originally called Show Your Wounds. As I was doing research on it day one, Show Your Wounds, just Google searching some stuff, and there was a sermon series done by Stephen Furtick in 2021 called Don't Show Your Wounds, Show Your Scars. And I know exactly what he's saying. There's we're both saying the same thing, wounds, scars, it's semantics what we're trying to say. He's saying the same exact thing I am. But I changed the title of the series because I didn't want anybody to think, one, that I had copied Stephen Furtick, or two, that we had some sort of different theology because I'm saying show your wounds and he's saying don't show your wounds. So I live in a constant comparison bubble, and it's used to bother me a lot when I was young. As I get older and I don't know, you just
get settled.
Yeah, more settled. You get more secure in yourself. As you get to that place, you understand. Me and Stephen Furtick are on the same team, and if he's able to encourage, I say my people, y'all know what I mean by that. Yes. If he's able to encourage my people and invest some stuff into him, praise the Lord for his ministry. And I say Stephen Furtick, doesn't matter what the guy is, but somebody that. So y'all grew up in a time where your comparison. Who did people compare you to? Who was the preacher that people compared you to? That they said, "Oh, I heard Billy Graham this week on the radio," or what were they saying back in the day?
They never compared me to Billy Graham. My buses never did wait. They just wouldn't wait.
It was interesting. I used to always,
because you were a traveling evangelist in the Church of God, very Pentecostal. We had a lot of great traveling evangelists in your time. Who were they saying? If you would preach a little more like them, or if you'd give altar calls a little more like him, who are those guys?
David Wilkerson.
Okay.
Really?
He wrote a book. What's the book he wrote that was very popular?
If you hadn't asked. Across the Switchblade? No, that's Nicky Cruz.
Nicky Cruz.
I'll Google it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, anyway, and I never copied him, but it on a fairly regular basis, we would be preaching about the same thing. And David Wilkerson was an awesome man of God. Yeah. I mean, he was just a very powerful man of God. I've listened to a few of his sermons. I can't say that I was, enamored by. He was a great man of God, of course. But we just seemed to be in the same wavelength with the Holy Spirit on what we would be preaching on. And I used to say on a regular basis, "Hey, I did not listen to David Wilkerson. So if my sermon resembles his, because I'd preach a sermon, then I'd see his newsletter.
Yeah, I don't need a footnote here.
Wow,
yeah,
that is very similar. But
yeah.
He did write the Cross and the Switchblade.
Okay. It was about Nikki Cruz.
It was about Nikki Cruz.
Yeah.
The one that I remember, I don't know why I remember this book. It was called America's Last Call, and it was, anyways. So David Wilkerson.
I think with me, because I came up, I didn't come up Church of God. I came up in a charismatic, spirit-filled, and which later became what they call non-denominational, but we were charismatic, spirit-filled.
Yeah.
And the faith movement had a big part to play in the charismatic movement, and so I was probably, I don't know that I was compared to Kenneth Copeland or Kenneth Hagin, but they were out there where I knew my people were listening to them, and then coming in and listening to me, and I was not Kenneth Copeland or Kenneth Hagin.
And these people, you say listening to them, they are listening to them on a television program or the radio, or how are they
Sunday mornings,
buying their tapes online
Sunday
or something?
Mornings, and sending in money and getting the tape series. I'll say this though: had it not been for them, I probably would never have had the courage to even attempt going into ministry. I'd never heard about faith. I'd never heard about believing God for something bigger than yourself. So when we went into ministry, our families thought we were crazy, but it was because we just had crazy faith.
Yeah,
we just
it's
believed
incredible.
we could. But I never tried to be like them.
In today's culture, I know Michael Todd's going to do something crazy on Easter Sunday.
Right.
He's going to drive up in a cyber truck and I mean, it's going to be wild there, and wild in the best way. You know what I mean? I don't mean that any sort of slight to him. He's going to go all out on Easter Sunday. I know Stephen Furtick. Actually, I was watching a interview with a very popular pastor, and he was talking about his sermon prep time and how, as the church has grown, his sermon prep time has shrunk to nothing because he has all these people build his sermons and then hand it to him, and then he preaches the sermon that other people created. Wow. And it's just funny for.
I couldn't do it.
It's great. You know, God uses anything. God can use God uses donkey. He can speak through anybody. So nothing good or bad about that. I'm not trying to say any sort of slight towards that. But there's 7 people writing somebody's sermon, you know, and so that person better have the best Easter sermon ever and Easter illustration ever, and you know, because you have multiple minds working on it. And so I just think about all the people that so many guys watching this are going to be compared to, and there's guys watching this that are going to be compared to us for Easter Sunday. There's guys out there that are going to say, oh, well, you know, Jamie's church had this many baptized on Easter Sunday, or Jamie's church did this on Good Friday, or whatever it may be, and there's going to be guys that are going to be even compared to us. And I just think that, you know, Tony always says comparison is the thief of joy, and I just think that there's so many people out there, pastors, that if we're not careful, we get caught in this trap of comparison. So give us some wisdom. Yeah. Ministry's hard. You're constantly being compared to people. Give us some wisdom on how to maybe block out the noise, or how to accept the comparison, or how to celebrate what's happening in the kingdom of God with other people. Give us some wisdom, Bradley.
All of the special days, okay, of the, you know, Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, 4th of July.
Valentine's Day.
It's 4th of July. You're going to have a segment of people that you don't get to see the rest of the year.
Right.
So we used to focus on the people that we don't see all the time, okay? Because you have that opportunity that hopefully you're praying, and every Sunday, whenever Pastor gives the altar call, I pray, the prayer I pray while he's giving that altar call is, I pray, God, don't let one person that needs you leave this place without finding Jesus. Amen. That's what I pray every week. And that's what I would pray, and that was our focus for the special services, because Mother's Day, we had a bunch of kids whose parents didn't come. Well, their moms were coming on that day. And if just one got saved, or one found Jesus, or they came back, or whatever, then I felt like we've accomplished our goal. But For young pastors, I watched the Masters was just last weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, Rory McIlroy won, and he said something
Beautiful
at the
tournament.
end. That one shot he hit was just incredible. And of course, I played golf Sunday afternoon, and I realized I'm not Rory McIlroy.
Not at all.
At all.
Not
even.
You look like him, but not
just like
quite
that.
hit the ball quite as well.
Not like him. But he said something at the end. He said, "Never give up on your dreams."
Yeah.
And I thought that was very. Now I don't know what his religious background is. I have no clue. But the statement, the young pastors, your dream, regardless of the size of your church, is winning the lost to the Lord. Mm-hmm. If you win one person to the Lord, you changed an entire.
Do you feel like you did it in a different manner than other people in your community? Because winning the lost is, there's so many avenues to do that. Did you go in a different way than other people in your community, or ways that you were raised? Did you approach that concept differently?
We did. We weren't. We were. Whenever we first started, it was called BCK Ministry and Worship Center, and that's how BCK, that name came around. That's another story on its own. But we thought we were rebels because we called our church a ministry center, okay, which we weren't.
Yeah.
But anyway, what we tried to do is nothing out of the ordinary, just be real, okay?
Which again, in we'll say early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, that was revolutionary.
Yeah.
Being real and authentic was not like normal late 80s, early 90s, right?
Preaching in jeans.
Oh, man, you didn't do that. Late 90s, you didn't preach in jeans.
I mean, you didn't even go to church unless you wore a suit.
Yeah.
And, I had special socks, shoes, the whole shebang when I
So
was preaching.
being real authentic, as they're comparing you to, David Wilkerson, and you're saying, thank you, but I'm BCK Ministries.
I wanted people to see me for what I was, because one thing I never would let myself be elevated, because the pastor, he's the ultimate servant.
Absolutely.
Okay, and one of the things I would ask, if we were going to hire somebody, one of the first questions I would ask them is, are you okay with cleaning the bathroom if you have to? Because if you can't, if you don't want to, well, you know what, the servant attitude has to happen. But I was always adamant. I didn't want to come off as being any kind of arrogant or, there's the pastor. When I always walked in around the back.
But now
of
there's
the
some
church.
people that want you to be like, not arrogant, but there's some people that want you to be elevated in an honoring way. And so that's a weird balance as well. It's a weird balance as well, because hopefully somebody saw you cleaning the toilet and they say, give me that scrub brush. I'm going to clean this for you.
Whenever we were getting this building ready, that one picture Pastor Cliff took of me cleaning, I was mopping the stage, okay? And I'll do anything. I have no problem. You can't imagine the impact that had on people. Yep. They would, and lots of compliments, and I really appreciated it. And I don't say that, again, not being arrogant, but I never wanted to be. I always wanted to be the guy that if there's church work, if there's ministry, I wanted my hands to be dirty too.
For sure.
I wasn't afraid to do it.
My dad used to say, if you want to hold Doug, you want me to tell you how to dig a hole? And I say, how? He'd say, grab a shovel and start digging.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's great wisdom. Great wisdom. You want to hold Doug, don't just start yelling at people to dig a hole. Grab a shovel and start digging.
Yeah.
So you grew up in, Kenneth Copeland, people comparing you to him. How did you protect or guard yourself to say, I'm going to make sure that this doesn't offend me, or this doesn't make me feel like I need to change my style of preaching, or whatever it may be?
I had to learn to be comfortable with who I was. I tried during homiletics classes and all that to emulate other preachers, and I was really bad at it.
For sure.
Just so bad at it.
For sure.
And insincere. You were an evangelist. You give an altar call every week. I wasn't a good evangelist.
Me either. I'm terrible at it.
No, you're wonderful at it. But I had to learn. It took me a long time to learn who Pastor Tom was. And when I became comfortable with who Pastor Tom was, the way I preached, how then ought we to live?
Yep.
I wasn't a big, evangelist. It was, if this is true, then what do you think about this? And so, my thing the thing that reassured me, and probably the only thing, because I never felt like I deserved being there, was people would come up and say, it was like you were in my living room last night.
Oh, yeah.
And my thought was, no, I was in my living room last night. And so if I didn't feel that it was a sincere message, I just couldn't preach it.
Yeah.
The comparisons to other people never really bothered me because I never felt like I would come out on top anyway.
Yeah.
So the Lord had to give me a freedom to be me.
So interesting, because I don't know that a lot of guys get to that place. At what age did you get to the place? Because let's say let's take 40 years, because that's a good kind of healthy round number for both of you. How many years into 40 did you just decide? I'm 20 years into ministry. Let's say that. How many years into ministry did you decide I'm just going to be me?
12.
12 years in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Mine was an evolution. And God had to speak. God, when I hear from God, it's normally very short sentences, like "you dummy, you" or something.
Yeah.
But I came to a point where He said to me, "Stop chasing ministry and let ministry chase you." And there was a release and there was a freedom there, because I've always been ambitious, I mean, I want to sit on the front row, hey, look at me kind of thing. Yeah. And I wanted to do good in ministry so much because I love the Lord, and I wanted to do good that I about wore myself out.
For sure.
My pastor actually called me and told me to slow down and back down, and I thought I was being real spiritual. I told him, I says, he didn't want me to burn out. And I said, well, I'd rather burn out than rust out.
Yeah.
And he said, either way, you're out.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh. And so I had to learn to relax in ministry. And,
All right, let's talk here, because this is, you had this conversation Monday night or whatever it was. This is where I'm at in ministry right now. The opportunities are so great. There's always the next event. There's always the next thing. You're always pushing for excellence. You're always press. And if I'm not careful, I am going to get to a place to where I burn out.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to put value on that. I don't want to say that that's a thing, but I also understand I've got to make some decisions to protect me from that in the future.
Yes, sir.
So how do you get to the place to where you say this? First off, let's start here. What did when you were pastoring? What did rest look like for you?
There was no such thing.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Because
like golf, y'all both love to golf.
Yes.
Was that ministry when you were? Because sometimes I went with y'all. It feels like rest. But there's times where I go with other people and it feels like work. You know what I mean?
No,
because
I
of they're wanting you to counsel them the whole time you're out there.
I had the unique privilege of having my wife as my co-pastor, and she was type A, and I could actually not be at church for 4 or 5 days, and she could handle everything.
Nice.
But that wasn't until the last several years. I don't know.
So think, okay, because you ran a business at the same time as you're planting a church. So what did you say? Rest was non-existent. Was it getting away? Was it family time? What did you have to do to force yourself to rest?
I don't think I did. Do
you regret it now, looking back, saying,
yes,
I wish
absolutely.
I would have rested more?
That you never get. The thing that I did that kind of forced me to get away was spending time with my daughter in softball.
Yeah,
okay,
awesome.
Kathy and I and Kalina. Of course, I was a nervous wreck
for sure
because she pitched
for sure.
And these games at the level they're playing, one run you won or lost.
Yeah.
And whenever she's pitching, man, if the count got full, I'm over there like sweating.
You're pacing back and forth.
It's like, oh,
so spending time with her, going to practices, things of that nature, that was restful for you.
It was, yes.
And you're the guy that always answers your phone.
Yes.
If his phone's behind me right now, if I'm bad. You change it. But if it rings right now, Brad will excuse himself and answer the phone.
Well, there's a reason for that. I could explain.
No, I get it. What I'm saying though is that's attached to an inability to rest. If you have to do for whatever reason, my parent was dying and they called me and I missed the call, so now I always answer the calls. That's fine. It's a valid reason, but it still creates a constant pressure of I have to always answer the call. And then there is that inside of ministry where people will say, you didn't return my phone call or you didn't return whatever, and you're like, man, there's a pressure attached to making sure that you're there for everybody, even when you're trying. It doesn't go away. Even when you're trying to rest.
Still now, I've got, like I say, the two families. I haven't pastored in 4 years now. I've got two families that are in crisis right now, and I feel like I have to be there.
Yeah. And if they call right now, you're picking up the phone.
Yeah.
Even if you're on and here goes where, this is the struggle of rest. Even when you're on a vacation with your family, the phone rings, and you know it's one of them.
You got more trouble.
Yeah. And so resting sounds great, but it's very difficult to do. So did you come up with an answer of what you did to rest?
There remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God. And I'm thinking, well, I haven't found it yet. Honestly, I think God forced me to. When my first wife passed, and then my life changed dramatically. I found Donna. Donna's a wonderful lady. She loves the Lord. But it wasn't the two of us have got to create this church and keep it going and all that kind of stuff. It honestly gave me an opportunity, I don't know, to not compete with anybody anymore.
Well, and that's very interesting.
I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, it does. It does. It's very interesting because what age were you when you actually retired from the church?
71.
What age were you when you actually retired from church?
About 58.
58.
Yeah.
Did you think when you started in ministry, when I get to 71, I'm retiring?
No.
Did you think when you started in ministry, when I get to 58, I'll retire?
I did not have a retirement plan at all. If you're serving the Lord, I'll go anywhere, do anything, say anything, need any money.
Till I die. Till I take my last breath. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And
when I first came here.
Yeah.
I kind of looked at you like, please don't ask me to do anything.
Yeah, you did. You sure did. You said I'll be here. I'll serve. I'll give. I'll do all the things. But I mean, I'll worship. I'll give. I'll pray for you. But please don't ask me to do anything.
Right. I was still just trying to find, who am I now?
Yeah.
And honestly, the great thing is for me is that season allowed you to not be pulled by so many other people, so that we could have a relationship to where you can speak into my life as well. Yeah. And these two guys, people ask me, maybe Monday they asked in a podcast, or a couple Mondays ago, they asked in a podcast, one of the questions that got sent in was, who do you allow to speak into your life, or something of that nature. And, you guys, you are two of the guys that I give that access to, and that I want to surround myself with. Your wisdom and your your all that you've been through, because I'm at the place now. I turned 45 this year. I'm at the place at 45 where Caleb's 21, and if I go to 70,
25
more years. More years in this. That means
putting out every Sunday. All you got.
That means Caleb's my age.
Yeah. Going home and not having any words left on a Sunday.
Wow.
I know.
25 more years of this. And and part of me goes, yeah, that's what I'm doing. 25 more years.
Sure, if I have to do 12 services, I'll do them.
Do it. Let's go. We'll press forward. We'll do it. But at the same time, I also know, and people watching this, we've got to, if you're a part of not only my church, whatever church you're a part of, you've got to fight for your pastor to have rest. And you've got to protect your pastor from getting bombarded with the overwhelming expectations that he's superhuman and should be there every time the phone rings.
Right.
I was watching a video yesterday or this morning, and the guy was the pastor, Philip Anthony Mitchell. Is that his name, Caleb? In Georgia, and he was talking about you have to love everybody, but you don't have to grant everybody access.
Correct.
And I thought, man, that's so good.
Yeah.
I can wrap my arms around everybody that walks through the doors and love them, but I don't have to go to dinner with everybody.
Right.
I cannot allow everybody access to my life, although I can love everybody. And I think the church body should be okay with that and should celebrate that, because I'm a better pastor whenever I've had some time to rest.
Right. You're a pastor. Later on in my ministry, there became some apostolic things where I'm teaching other churches and all that. But I was a pastor. Mm-hmm. I love my people. You're a pastor of thousands. I was not a pastor of thousands. I was a pastor of hundreds. And that was all I could do. And there were some that were so close. We were so close. And there are others that, hey, good to see you. You're very good at what you do, but there's no way that you can be best friends with 2,000
No
people.
way.
You can't do it. And if you try, it'll just kill you. People that don't understand will pull from you until there's nothing left to pull from.
Well, marrying a preacher's kid, a PK for short, you get to see the side of the other side of pastoring. And whenever we first met Kathy's dad, it was Christmas Eve. My dad was in the hospital and he was dying. And Kathy told me the story. They were all sitting together in the one bedroom and they were talking about Christmas Eve, and the phone rang. Pastor Whetstone got his clothes on and went to the hospital. Not a complaint, nothing.
Which is so admirable.
Yes.
But also shouldn't be expected. I think that's the hard part, okay?
Yeah.
Here goes what I think is hard. That's incredible. Mm-hmm. But also the guy who says, hey, let me pray for you over the phone because I haven't seen my kids in 3 weeks because I've been so busy with all the church stuff that happens. That person should be considered just as admirable that he chose his kids. You know what I mean? And so this is this weird. Now in the early 80s, 90s, whatever time that was, you couldn't do that. You, as a pastor, you went when you were called.
That was in the 70s.
But I
You
think
had to do visitation,
you had to.
hospitalizations, you had to do everything.
But I think as time grows, we've got to celebrate guys that are able to say, I'm protecting my family. I'm being there at Kalina's softball events, not over the church, but because this helps me be better in the church.
Right.
When
That's
I go
why
to
you
Disney,
staff those people.
Absolutely. When I go to Disney with my wife, we're going, when my kids go on spring break, we're going to Disney. When I go to Disney with my wife, it costs me way too much money. If you've ever been to Disney, it costs way too much money.
Way too much.
It costs me way too much money to go, but right now in this season of my life, because I don't play golf, I'd love to play more, I don't get out like I should, there's just always things. It is the one place or one thing that we do where my kids love it, my family loves it, and I feel like I'm forced to rest. Even though we're busy, running around Disney doesn't feel like rest. You're exhausted, you're tired, but I feel rested. Right. And I'm able to sit in shows in Disney and go, wow, man, this production quality is amazing. And I'm able to watch people interact, and I'm dreaming about the future of the kingdom of God, having these interactions. Right. And so for me, something, and I've just determined in my heart, it's going to cost more money to do that. And it would be so much easier just to go to, play around the golf over here, and it would be so much cheaper, except for even when I'm there, I struggle resting.
You're still Pastor Jamie.
Still Pastor Jamie. But I can go there.
I couldn't go anywhere in eastern
Dad.
North Carolina. I couldn't go to the beach and lay on the beach without a shirt on, without somebody coming up and saying, hey, Pastor Tom, good to see you.
Every single time. Every single time I'm on the beach.
You walk into a restaurant and you look around to see who's going to notice you.
Yeah. Which is fine. I love it. Yeah. I love it. It is beautiful. I love it. I'm not complaining at all. I'm just saying I don't want to get to a season in my life and be forced into retirement because I'm burnt out. I want it to be me and God. I joked the other day. I said, I want to be like Moses. I just want to go lay down and not wake up. Okay, here's my last address to the people.
Keep in mind, he's 120 now.
Right, that's what I want. Here's my last address to the people. Now I'm going to go down I'm going to go lay down, and I'm not going to wake up. I love y'all. I'll see you later. All right, Joshua, here you go. Take control. That's what I want. I don't ever want to get to the place to where I'm forced into retirement or into a less than everything that I can be for the kingdom of God role because I didn't protect my mental, emotional, physical health.
You want to walk off the ministry with a mic drop.
That's exactly what I want to do.
Well,
honestly speaking.
If I could give any advice for young pastors, okay, number one would be you are who you are. You are who God made you.
Absolutely.
Okay? And learn to be able to disconnect. I've told you that several times, and I understand.
That's my major concern.
The pastor is one of the reasons you don't have a nothing box. Yep. Okay, people say, "Well, what do? You go home and think about nothing." That never happens, and I know that never happens.
Never.
Okay, but one of the things, whenever I started coming here, that I loved, and I still do, is you were who you are. Okay, and of course, I've been, we've gone out to eat, we've done different things, and the pastor is, what you see is what you get here.
Correct.
And outside of church.
Authenticity.
And authenticity is very powerful.
Yeah.
And I think that'll keep you from being burned
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I think that helps to create longevity because you're not having to, it is stressful trying to figure out what part you're playing in this role.
Yeah.
No, I'm always this guy. Yeah. It's a little easier.
What you see is what you get. You don't have to fake it.
Yeah.
Faking it's really tiring.
It is. Well, younger pastors, I didn't come here because we came here the first time, and you remembered our names the second time, which was I was very impressed with.
God, Facebook stalked you.
Same here.
Yeah, but I don't come here because like Pastor Jamie preaches just like.
Yeah.
No, if that was the case, I'd go to that person's church. I come here because we love Pastor Jamie and what he stands for and his integrity. But, you said you want to be like Moses. Moses' father-in-law came to him and said, hey, you're going to burn out.
No doubt.
You got to have these 70 people that are going to have to do your job. So, you have people on staff. So if, and if somebody's listening to this, and they hear this, I don't want to be offensive, but if they're in a hospital and Pastor Jamie doesn't come to pray for him, but somebody on his staff, that's delegated authority from Pastor Jamie that's coming to pray for them.
Absolutely.
Same thing.
Same as.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, but
and I think that is beautiful in our church where we're at right now, where people are grasping that and there's not an expectation. I think the thing that people may be expecting in this season that I'm unable to give is more than y'all see me on Sunday morning. It's drive-by shooting at times, where it's, hey, good morning, and very rarely am I able to say, somebody will stop me on Sunday morning and say, hey, can I have a few minutes of your time? Yeah. And I'm like, yes, for sure, but is this something that we need a meeting about? Because I can't, unfortunately, there's a lot of people running in, running out that I need to touch. Yeah.
You do. Pastors have groupies.
Yeah.
Well, the ones that started at the small church, that
for sure.
Make that transition.
For sure. And that's hard.
Yeah.
Growing a church is hard because the people who came here with us, we had this conversation whenever we came here and visited this building the first time. They kept saying, but we love what we have. Right. And how are we going to keep what we have over here? And I don't know the answer to that, but we you walked in the first day. Tell them what you said.
I told him, I said, you're a small church pastor in a big, beautiful building with a whole lot of people, and you don't know it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I love that. I took that as a compliment.
Please don't lose that.
Please don't lose I took that as a compliment.
But it's almost hard to keep it.
It's hard to keep.
Because the demands on 1,500 change a whole lot when it's 2,000 and then 2,200 or whatever. Yep. Your leadership style has to change. Your personality shouldn't change.
Yeah.
Right.
But your leadership style has to. You have to have a care pastor going to the hospital instead of you going every time.
Right.
No doubt.
You know, you have to do that kind of stuff. And then you do have groupies, and people want to talk to you. When you're walking from the front to the glass room, there's going to be 14 people that want to talk to you. And again, I don't get offended if you walk by me.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I realize you got other people that probably need you
Absolutely.
more.
But because of what I said, where you can love everybody, but not everybody gets access, the people that get access are the people I want to stop and have conversation with. So it's really interesting conversation. Really, really interesting how especially that moment, pre-service, post-service, especially in a big church, pre-service, post-service, where for a lot of people, it's your only time to touch them for the week. Shake their hand, hug their neck, say good morning. It's your only time for the entire week. Or for some people, if they come once a month, it's the only time you're going to touch them for the entire month.
Right.
And so you better be actively out there saying good morning to people. You know, I say hugging. You don't have to hug everybody, but hugging, shaking hands, you know, welcoming people. As a pastor, you better find a way to be a part of the first impression team.
To be honest with you, that's why we came back.
Just being real.
Yeah.
You know, this church, one of the interesting dynamics is this church is growing outside of these walls.
Yeah.
With the campuses that are, you know, they're just lining up. And what's incredible is Psalm 139, verse 15 and 16, that God has a book of
Every day of my
Pastor
life
Jamie's
is
life,
ordained.
and every day. And I'd love to see the pages where it says, you thought one church outside was going to be enough. Well, here's 10 more, okay? Because that's what's going to happen.
No doubt.
And it's already, how are you going to do that? By being Pastor Jamie Barfield.
That's right.
Because you're not anybody else but you.
Exactly.
And that's what everybody loves.
Well, you got to go pick up your grandkid. So
I do. That's a tough job, man. I love it. See,
go spoil her and buy her some gummy worms or something like that.
One anecdote, if I may.
Yeah.
When you were talking to your staff about there being broken people, you're out there, and I'm sitting there and I'm doing this because, you know, we're all broken. We all walk with a limp.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this. Donna played it again this morning before she went to work. She was just listening on her phone, and I was over on my phone, and she played that part again. And I'm still doing this, and I said, that's the anointing. When you cry the first time you hear it, but you know what he's going to say the second time, and you still cry. You know, it's like, I'm not crying, you are. You know? Amazing. That's authentic. That's the anointing. And seriously, that's what the anointing does. It
Absolutely.
it breaks the yoke. You know?
Wouldn't change. Ministry is hard, but we wouldn't change anything that we've been through for the world. Wouldn't go back and undo anything for the world.
Not for the world.
It would be nice to know what I know now.
Oh, yeah.
That would be great, except that doesn't happen.
You'd have been dangerous.
Any young pastors that are listening to this, make notes.
Yeah.
And the word says there's wisdom and counsel.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Ministry is hard. Guys, listening to this, watching this. Ministry's hard.
It's very hard.
Totally worth it.
Absolutely worth it.
Keep fighting.
Without
Love y'all.
question.
Thanks
If you can do anything else, do it.
Thanks for spending some time with me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.